Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. All right, today on the Develop Yourself podcast, we have Ryan Talbert, software engineer, LinkedIn hot take personality, as well as the author of 101 Tips on TypeScript, React, and JavaScript. Really excited to have you here. I've been following you for a while. We've been following each other for a while, and I'm really excited to get you on this show.
Yeah, excited to be here, man.
Yeah, I think the things I want to speak to you a lot about are not only like how you got into tech from an outsider perspective, because I see you have an interesting journey into tech. You definitely came from like a different path that's kind of similar to mine. I saw you like started like as an admin assistant, and then you went through a few jobs, and now you're like a well-known LinkedIn tech person, and you also have this book. But I also want to get into some of your like takes on learning to code now, especially in 2024, TypeScript and the JavaScript ecosystem, and generally what you would be telling developers and what you would do differently if you were starting over today. But before we get into all that, I'm really curious if you can tell us a little bit about like how you got into tech. How did you start writing code?
Yeah, for sure. So my story is a little not linear, I guess. Maybe a lot of people's are, but I actually originally went to school, university for business. I got a degree in entrepreneurship. And I knew growing up, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, build my own thing, do that. And one of the things we needed to do to pass my senior class was write a business plan. So I came up with this idea for an app called Herd Map. And, just classic college, bar hopping app. Kind of like Snapchat Maps does now, but it would kind of heat up the more people were using an app in an area. So you could go find a hot, bar for the night, or like instead of looking up 10 things to do in my city, you could really see what the locals, are doing that night and go have a great night out. So I kind of put this business plan together, and one of my teachers I really looked up to was like, you know what, this is a great business plan.
Yeah.
And it's a great idea for an app. You should run with it. So that was kind of my first foray into this like tech world. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know what I was looking for. So I started just telling people about my idea, saying like, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? And that led me various places. I ended up getting the app built on, I think Upwork originally.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, used Upwork to get the app built. I think I spent like $500 for an MVP. It did nothing of what I wanted it to. But, it got me my start, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of cool. So I kept looking around, eventually found somebody. I was working at Home Depot at the time, pushing carts, cashiering.
Okay, cool.
So I was, I got a degree in entrepreneurship. So, not a lot of people want to hire entrepreneurs necessarily. Yeah. So, working at Home Depot, and I started talking to this guy I worked with, and I'm like, I have this idea for an app. I really need somebody to like, I can work with to code this. Well, he goes, my nephew's a whiz at this stuff. Contact him. So I met him here in the United States. He started building this app for me. I started funneling money to this guy, like my entire life savings. He had me buy a server in Germany. He had me do all this stuff, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. I didn't even have a laptop in college. Like, I was pen and paper, like Stone Ages type stuff. So whatever this guy was telling me, I'm like, sure.
Okay, sure.
He's like, I need to build an iOS app, so I need a new MacBook. I'm like, all right, here's $3,000 total. Oh man, like you can see where this is going already.
I'm hoping this is going a different way than I'm envisioning in my head.
It's nope, it's going right where. Oh. So I spend about 20, maybe 25, 30,000. I was 22, 23 at the time. Holy my moly. Entire life savings with this guy, and I end up getting a cease and desist from the country of Germany, where my server was located, saying that this app that was never finished, mind you, it was always some other reason why it wasn't finished, was the server was kind of involved with like phishing and credit card stealing and all these different sites doing all this stuff that I had no knowledge about. So when I found that out, I was like, okay. So I immediately cut them out. I
Mm-hmm.
killed the server. The app was done. I spent all this money. I had no really way to continue it. And I had a half bake app that had about 1,000 users, but it never really did what it was supposed to. And that was one of the lowest points of my life. Like I
I
just had
bet.
completely gotten taken advantage of, really. And I was naive, I was young, and I think the part was like when I just felt like I was chasing a dream, like this entrepreneurial dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what was kind of like blinding me. I was just like, you know what, maybe he's doing the right thing, and this app's gonna make it, this app's gonna make it.
Yeah.
But when it didn't make it, that was my lowest point. And I'm like, you know what, I know I want to keep building stuff, and I know I want my own business someday, and I want to do the right thing. Like I want to be a force for good in this world with whatever I do. So I think I need to learn to code because I don't want to get taken advantage of again.
Yeah. Right.
And I had a guy that sat next to me, I believe, in a statistics class, a buddy of mine in college, and he learned to code in like 6 months. And we went to business school, and he had a coding job like after 6 or 7 months, like one of those just rare
Yeah. Right.
unicorn stories.
Mm-hmm.
So I reach out to him. I'm like, "How did you learn this?" And he's like, "You're in luck, man. Udemy's having a sale." He sent me the $10 course. It was Colt Steele's
Oh, Cold Steel.
web dev
Yeah.
camp. Yeah,
Love that guy.
and that was it, man. It was love at first sight. I started that course, and I was like, man, this is like enthralling. And that's kind of my story, man.
That's
That's how I got
amazing.
here.
So wait,
It's
from one
nuts.
course, like one Udemy course?
Well, no,
Oh,
no, no, no. That was what started it
okay,
all. I,
gotcha.
I I actually finished that course all the way through, but there's been a trail of like Udemy courses I haven't finished or like I bought, to learn. But yeah, that really was the one that he does great work. He's taught a lot of people just off that course alone, and I know he's updated it. So you probably could make it with just that course.
That's
But
wild.
I jumped around a little bit, but yeah, man,
Dude, that's a really cool story. I mean, I remember buying Cold
it wasn't
Steel's
cool to
thing
live
on
through it.
DSA and like data structures and algorithms for JavaScript developers, and that was my
Yeah,
very first introduction to data structures and algorithms, and it was in a way that I finally understood it because it was with JavaScript, which at the time like nobody was doing. Like there was not.
yeah.
Now you can find all sorts of stuff on that, but what 7 years ago that just wasn't a thing, and I think he was like the first person I discovered. Very cool.
He was kind of like the first for like a lot of stuff. He's kind of been like cutting edge for a while. He's one of the people. If I ever get the chance to meet him, I'd love to just shake his hand.
Cold Steel, if you're
He-
listening,
he's done a lot of
reach
stuff
out.
for a lot of people. Yeah, if you're watching this,
If you're
reach
watching
out.
this, yeah, or you're listening to this, yeah, hit us up. Man, so how did you go from the learning part? Because this is the piece that where I see most people fail. Like actually acquiring the skills is now, I'll be honest, easier than ever. Like I own a coding boot camp and we teach a lot of skills and we have mentors and people that help people along and teach them full stack web dev. But you can learn a lot of that on your own if you really wanted to. Like if you wanted to go the whole full stack route, you could teach yourself all this stuff. But there's a big disconnect between the number of people that learn something and the number of people that get hired. How did you go from, completely separate, different background, non-tech related, didn't use computers in school, to learning this skill and then marketing yourself as a developer and then getting paid to write code?
Yeah, there's something I've noticed about that. Like, that old saying, kind of burn your bridges. The old saying, these military tactics where a general would just lead their, people fighting to an island, basically burn the bridges or burn the boats. And they're like, all right, we either die here or we win. There, that's kind of how I feel. When you're making the switch, a lot of people half-heartedly do stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'll even reach out. I used to do 15-minute sessions. People could call me for free and we talk for 15 minutes. And it's like, I really want to do coding, but, right now I'm a graphic designer. Right now I do this, or right now I do this. And really, for me, it was like a mindset shift. Like, I stopped saying I was a cashier at Home Depot, or, I stopped saying, I think I was working at a plumbing company
Mm-hmm.
uh, before my first job as a administrative assistant or dispatcher too. And it was really just getting the mindset shift of like, all right, I'm a coder now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can do this. And kind of once you set your mind to like, come hell or high water, I'm going to get this done,
Yep.
and just kind of bear down and deal with it. That's kind of the mindset you need to make it in this industry. And I always tell people, like, right at the beginning, you're at the hardest part, right? You're not from here, you're not from this field, and you're trying to tell people, give me a shot, I can do it.
Yeah. Right.
And that is the most difficult thing. But after that first job, it gets a little easier, and it gets a little easier. You get more experience under your belt. So you're paying for it up front, right? I'm not going to sit here and
For
tell you
sure.
it's an easy experience. But once you get past it, it's kind of all downhill from there. And, various things, that's the mindset. But the actual like technical stuff, and you talk about this in your writings too, is like, get off the tutorials, right? Like,
Eventually,
at
yeah.
the end of the day, they're paying you to do a job, and there's not going to be a tutorial there for you. So you want to go in, you want to do the tutorial, you want to get some semblance of like, okay, this is kind of like how this fits together, but you want to turn that off eventually and build stuff. And my whole career has been building stuff. Like, I've been able to outwork and just, get around people that have maybe been in the industry twice as long,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm doing this stuff outside of work, or like when I'm, not working, I'm writing code to learn something else. Like, I really live and breathe this stuff. And that's kind of the secret sauce, is like, if you can do that for a couple of years up front, go off, build stuff, you're going to be so much further ahead than like senior devs that just spend their time at work, that kind of naturally got in this field. Maybe they went to college for it. Maybe they've been in this field the whole time. And those guys are going home. They're watching TV. You can outwork them if you build stuff. So
Dude.
that's kind of my thing, is take a tutorial, go build stuff. Figure out something in your daily life you can improve with code. Figure out something you can build. Help your parents out.
Man,
All kinds of
you
stuff, man.
just like broke down basically how I structured my career, to be honest with you. Similar background, didn't do computers even in college. I went to college, didn't own a computer in that time. And I'm not that old, Everybody else had a computer at that time besides me. I just didn't have one. And then the way I was able to succeed so far is by doing exactly what you just said. Like, I learned at a certain point, like, okay, I just got to build more stuff, and I'd have to work some weekends, like building stuff with Redux or things that I just didn't get, and then like learning React on my own and things like that. And that really helped me. But you also said something really cool about the mindset thing, which, I know it may sound like fluff for people here and say, oh, what does that really mean? But you hit a really good point. Like, fake it till you make it's not just like some, fake strategy. It's like you have to be a fool before you could be the master. You kind of have to assume the identity to become one.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're a doctor, well, I don't care what you are. Like, at some point you're gonna have to say, well, I'm that thing now, even before you have like the professional experience or before you feel ready. And yeah, painting yourself as like, hey, I'm not like a what X former whatever trying to become a developer. Like, I'm a software engineer, and that's how I'm going to present myself and market myself. Really important.
Yeah. Yeah, fake it till you make it, man. So you have to believe it first before anybody else does. That's one of the biggest things I learned. And this just goes to show you, I've been doing this a while now, a long time, and sometimes a doubt still creeps in.
For sure.
Like, I have a mobile app that I build, and it's actually been doing really good. I've got a lot of users, and it's for the state of Missouri, and I'm using AWS Amplify, so I'm locked into the Amplify system.
Yep.
And I've been learning Rust, because you made a post about it one
Oh,
time, and
that's
I was
right.
like,
You hit me up, and I was like, oh man, you're the only person who hit me up. By the way, that was really funny.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been checking it out. But I got kind of nervous. I'm like, oh man, I'm locked into AWS, and I'm like on the serverless architecture. Like, what if it gets too expensive, or like, what if I want to go to a server, or like, because things get kind of weird to do stuff when you're serverless.
Right.
And I reached out to a buddy at work, who's been kind of helping me with projects. He's been doing this forever, and I was like, man, like, I'm locked into AWS. Like, what if I want to make a server? What if I want to like get off of it, and I don't know how?
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, like you've done everything else, go build a small project. And I was like,
Yep.
he's right. That's been like every step of the career. It's like
Mm-hmm.
fear, panic, go build something. Oh,
Like
that's how
that's
you
how
do
you
it.
do. Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Cycle continues. Fear, panic, go build something. We're good.
Yep.
You know?
But people don't do that next step. Like I definitely have gotten that thing where you think about it and you think about it. Like humans are naturally built to procrastinate. But if you can beat
Yeah.
that and actually just be like, I don't understand. Like I didn't understand Docker, and I'm working on this curriculum for Parsity to do
Mm.
Docker and like cloud deployments and like do
Yeah.
microservices. And I'm like thinking, okay, this would be really cool for me to learn too, and probably help students out. And I was like really freaked out about Docker for I don't know why. In retrospect, it's silly. Same thing with like
Yeah.
Redux. I was like, I don't get it. I'll never get it. And then I just sat back and like built the thing up over the week. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not that bad. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of pull the shades back. But yeah, that would be my advice for
Yeah.
kind of starting out.
And now with like ChatGPT, you can even do more of this stuff, which is pretty cool. Um,
Yeah. 100%.
I definitely want to talk about this book you wrote, which I'm really glad because so many people come out with a course, super video heavy stuff, and I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that because people like videos. I like videos, but I am a big fan of getting knowledge through reading because most of the
Yeah.
documentation you read is, I mean, it's documentation online that you read. Videos are slower to ingest information. You can read much faster. Your book specifically has been great because it's like these really quick little tidbits with the code sample, and it doesn't like take you through over explaining stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. You can do like it had shell commands in JavaScript, which I didn't know you could do. It has like breaks down TypeScript concepts, which are like map types and things like that, which are typically pretty difficult to understand. And she was like, "Oh, that's kind of how you do it. You can fill in the blanks." What led you to write this book?
Yeah, so my book, 101 Tips, TypeScript, JavaScript, and React, it just came out. So we did launch week. And I wrote this book because I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, right? And
Yep.
one of the beauties, one of the beautiful things about spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, if there's many, is getting to meet people like you, but also
Appreciate it.
people post code snippets on there.
That's right.
So I'll be on there, I'll wake up, roll out of bed, just fire off this random post
Mm-hmm.
and scroll a little bit. And somebody's posted like this beautiful code snippet that's like, here's what I've been doing in React, for the last 7 years. And it's a way I've never seen anything. And it just like blows your mind. This little picture.
Yep.
And they give like 3 sentences or like, do this to do this, like
Mm-hmm.
quick way to do this. And I'm like, man, I never would have thought of that. And that just like the internet gives you interaction with so many opinions you'd never see at work or like elsewhere. um, so I was just like, man, I wish somebody could like harness that into a like some kind of something,
Mm-hmm.
because I love these quick tips. And I felt like over the years, like, use previous hooks and all these different things like
Yeah.
I've learned just from stumbling on somebody like waking up one day and being like, yeah, I'm just going to share this tip. So I was like, that's a cool way to learn. Videos, I've done so many videos. I've been on Udemy forever. Like,
Right.
you really have to sit down and watch videos and like be in front of a computer and like have your code editor up. And I'm like, I don't want all that,
I know,
man.
right?
I want something quick. I want something easy. I want something that like you could read in a minute. And it's a book you don't have to read all the way through. You can skip steps. You can read it from back to front. You
Right.
could read it upside down. Probably can't do that one.
Yeah.
But I just wanted something easy, digestible, and quick that captured like the cool way I'd been learning on LinkedIn. So I think I did it. I tried my best. It was my first go at a book, but feedback's been great. People been really liking it. So I think it's a cool way to learn. And I was really excited to release it. I'm glad you liked it too, man.
I liked it. I think it's a great book. I mean, if it's also like super affordable. I mean, I buy books all the time. It's like one of the most underrated things. People always have like, oh, a video that you should listen to, or here's a Udemy, there's a 100-hour Udemy course, or here's a 100-hour free tutorial. I'm like, there's zero chance I'm sitting through anything that's more than like 30 minutes, first of all. But I love
Yeah.
books. I read books all the time. It's kind of been my superpower as a developer. asking smarter developers what they're reading and being, oh, okay, I'm going to read that too. And there's a few books that make up like you know, the top X books that all developers read. And then I love
Yeah.
tidbit books like yours, like whether it's marketing stuff where I can read something like, here's like opening lines for emails. I'm like, oh, this is great. Sparks some creativity, gives you ideas of what you can do, and then you can take it a step further, which is exactly what your book achieves. So I love
Yeah, I
that kind of
appreciate
stuff.
it.
Yeah, for sure.
I really just wanted to show like what's out there. Like I don't expect everybody to use every one, but I want you to like just get a range of different things or things like makes you look at code different. That's really what excites me is like just trying the new stuff and learning. So
Yeah, it took me like 4 companies, multiple contracts, and just hanging on a lot of developers to see a lot of these things. But you're right, like using LinkedIn for that purpose is a really good thing. Here's the funny thing though, and here's a pro tip for those that are listening and want to maybe get more engagement on social media. Posting a code sample, it's like the quickest way for people to jump in and either rip apart your code and get engagement or like give you props on it. I think my most popular Instagram post is a video of me showing my Git strategy, and it got like 30,000 views. It got me thousands of followers. It just blew my Instagram up like beyond belief, and it's because people were so angry at the way that I
yeah,
showed how to do Git. They're like, "You can't do that. You don't know what you're talking about. It's the worst Git flow ever."
harnessing harnessing anger on the internet is incredible, man. One of my favorite. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think one of the a video I did back before LinkedIn was like kind of I don't know. Videos haven't been going as far,
Yeah.
but I used to post codes. I would like talk you through a code sample. It was like a minute long. I think it got like 900 likes because in one part I like just completely flubbed the line wrong.
Yeah.
Like it was just wrong, and everybody was like, "Ryan, you're wrong."
Yep.
And like I must have got 1,000 followers off of that video. People just coming in and following me.
Yeah.
I put the line in wrong on purpose. Give them something to talk about. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, that was smart.
the rest of it was great, man. 90% of it was some deep learning stuff. But that 10%, they're like, that line is wrong. I'm gonna tell you you're
Yep.
wrong. I'm gonna message you you're wrong. I'm gonna follow you and tell you you're wrong. And I'm
Yep.
like, well,
Hey.
hey, who am I to judge, man? Follow all you want.
That is hilarious, dude. That's really smart. I didn't see. I thought it was a really boring video. I thought this could be some boring, mundane video. I'm showing some very basic Git stuff, and people got so upset in the comments. But it just got me like I went from like 1,000 to 10,000 followers. So if that's your goal
That's
to get more followers and engagement, consider posting code. And if you really want to get engagement, consider posting incorrect code or a strong
yeah,
opinion on something. Um,
yeah.
so you're good at software engineering. You're also good at marketing. I'm curious, like, how, as a developer, has that helped you? And do you suggest, like, nowadays, I feel like everybody online is saying, learn in public, market yourself as a developer, be a mini influencer on LinkedIn. Has marketing helped you as a developer to be employable? And would you suggest that new coming developers follow a similar strategy?
So marketing is always a plus. Like if you can market yourself, that's just a skill that it goes beyond business. Like you can sell things, you can help yourself get new jobs, opportunities. Like marketing, if you have time to invest towards it, go learn how to market yourself. But yeah, I have people. So my account blew up, and I've been at the same company, and I absolutely love the company I'm working for.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I get recruiters messaging me all the time, just based off my LinkedIn. Which you hit a certain stage, and they stop recruiting you because I guess they're like, oh, this guy's like big on LinkedIn. He's not working, which is funny. But like there's a good point where like I would just get 5 to 6 recruiters a day hitting me up,
Yep.
hey, come work here, this kind of stuff, and it's it's been huge, man. I mean, the reason I remember one day I was sitting at work and I had this thought that it was like, I'm going to get big on LinkedIn. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a thought I had. I'm like, all right, let's go do it.
Damn.
So just kind of been at it since. And the reason I did it was there was a sense of fear for me between jobs.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like maybe not a quantity issue. Like I know the jobs are out there, but maybe it's a quality issue. Like how do I ensure that the next place I land is a good place to be and
Mm-hmm.
like treats me fairly? And like what can I build for myself to make it kind of automatic or like less work than the next person? And I really, being in business and just kind of the cutthroat nature of American business, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But you're like, what is my competitive advantage? What do I have versus the next person, that's sitting next to me? And I was like, if I really do LinkedIn and do it well,
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge competitive advantage. Like, everybody's like, I took, I can use React.
Sure.
It's like, okay, well, I can use React and I have, 28,000 followers on LinkedIn. Maybe I can give the company I'm working for good press or
Yeah,
something. I
right.
don't
For
know.
sure.
Um, just like you don't know how it's going to help you, but it definitely has helped me. People reach out to me all the time, and it's just been a great differentiator, man. And the fact that I'm really like I'm a fun guy. I think I'm great to work with. It's everybody always we're always joking around having a good time, but
Yeah.
like I'm also serious about code and like marketing and stuff like this. And when you build a brand like the way I have, posting code snippets or
Mm-hmm.
just talking about JavaScript, it's really hard to deny the fact that you're good at JavaScript. So like when you go to an interview and they've checked out your LinkedIn, well, it's not like, is this person really who they say they are?
That's
It's
right.
like, I have 28,000 people following me. I post snippets every day. You can see an audit trail of everything I post, and generally it's correct.
Yeah.
Like it's just really helpful. And do I recommend everybody go out and do it? No, I think you need a certain personality for it. Content creation's draining as well,
Yeah.
and
True.
you got to be in a decent place to do it too. Like you got to feel comfortable. And like if I was constantly looking over my shoulder about like how am I going to pay the next bill, I don't know if content creation would be where I would start. But if you're in a position where you can do it, I would say go full steam with it. It doesn't take too much time, and it definitely pays dividends. Has that been your experience, Brian?
Oh man, absolutely. I don't know if I've shared this publicly, but I was laid off like unofficially about a month and a half ago, and luckily I'm not concerned really. But just in that time, without me really doing anything, I've had 5 interviews. I'm engaged in 5 different interviews right now, and
Nice.
yeah, and to be completely honest, if I got one of them, great. If I didn't, I wouldn't mind pushing it all down the line a bit. And I got to tell you, I can only imagine that having a large presence on LinkedIn has helped. Also, I mean, I'll be honest, I have a lot of experience. I got to manager level. I
Yeah.
know that there's a shortage of engineering managers as well. So I get a lot of uh, recruiters in my inbox lately. But it's been cool. I haven't really had to apply anywhere. So, you know,
That's been awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the way I would, if I could do it again, I would I would suggest anybody you're I think I like what you said too. Like you don't have to do it, but looking for any differentiator. Some people do open source. Some people are like social media personalities. Some people might
Yeah.
build an app that they can talk to. Some people just have a really strong network, or some people went to a big fancy tech company and that's kind of their golden ticket for the next 10 years. I'm an ex Google employee. You don't really have to. You can skip the line at basically every place. For the other 99% of us though, we have to kind of find ways to stand apart. I think, and you make a good point with that.
Yeah. And if you're somebody that's really like if you really worry about your next job, or you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do if I get laid off?
Hmm.
I think building your own brand where you can start attracting, recruiters or companies reaching out to you is a great way to mitigate a lot of that. Just from, it's just smart business, really. Like if you can do it. And the one thing too that I talk to really smart people, I work with really smart people, and I'm like, you know what, you should start posting on LinkedIn.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I could never. But you never realize like your journey is like a book, right?
Hmm.
And maybe you're just getting your start. Maybe you're listening to this and you haven't even gotten your first job. Post about it anyway, because you're on the hunt for a job. And let's say in this book we call software engineering, you're on page 3. There's somebody on page 0 or
That's right.
page 1 that's like, how do I even start looking for a job, or how do I feel comfortable? Like, whether you finish the book and you're like, I can teach you anything, or you're just like showing off your journey, there's still value to somebody else out there that wants to listen to what you have to say. So,
100%. Yeah. And I think actually it's more important when you're close to that stage that you do it, because now I'm 10 years in and I'm talking about things that I have a vague memory of. I'm like, I remember going through it, but my memory's been warped. I've been influenced by other memories and my own experience. Some of the advice I have may just not be as relevant anymore. But if you're right in it, like that's really valuable time for you to share with what you're going through. And I think the problem is too many of us wait till we like quote unquote made it before we start sharing. And I'm like, no, that we're missing the important part of your journey, which is this piece where you're learning all the stuff in real time, which is way more interesting to me to look at.
yeah, hit the nail on the head. I agree.
Yeah, man. Um, into tech stuff. If you were starting again, if you're like boot camp grad, learning on your own, what are some technologies you would be learning today?
If I had to learn today, that's a great question. I would obviously JavaScript. JavaScript's huge. I don't think it's going anywhere. But yeah, personally, I, I love JavaScript. So I would double down on it. I'd do the JavaScript. I'd learn TypeScript after, and then I'd do React. And then for the back end gets a little fuzzy because I originally started on Node, and Node was particularly hard to get a job in at that time because I
Oh,
think, certain companies were, I think they were more ingrained in backends that were more mature, I guess, at the time. So I kind of struggled for a while until I found a company that was like, all right, we'll take what you got. But now Node's kind of blown up, for sure. But for backend wise, I would go in my area and look up jobs and see kind of what kept coming up again and again if I had to learn. I kind of picked the MERN stack because it was handed to me in the Udemy course, and I was
mm-hmm.
like, this is
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
I don't know enough. I didn't listen to any good podcasts to, you know what to learn from. But I would definitely check out like what's big in your market. And I hate to say it, man. I hate to say it. St. Louis is big on Java. If I
Oh,
would have just bit
yeah.
the bullet and like learned Java, there's a lot of enterprise level corporations that probably would have hired me a lot easier. I would have made it a lot easier on myself than I did in the long run. But hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, for sure. I have like varying opinions on that because I totally agree with you. Like, you can't ignore the fact that your local market is something you're going to want to take into account, especially early in your career. I also think that as you expand or if you want to go remote, like learning kind of like the dominant stack is probably a really good idea too. But I know like if you're like in St. Louis or in DC area, learning .NET, Java can be
Yeah,
really really important, especially anywhere where like government agencies are big. You're going to be working on
sure.
.NET stuff probably almost certainly. So it's probably worth you learning it. If you're on the West Coast or the East Coast or tech hubs, the MERN stack is probably sufficient, you know. And there's little variations
Yeah,
in between.
for sure. No, but also too, like if you love something, just learn
Yeah,
that.
right.
Like, man, I really love JavaScript, and I just was so hard headed that I got so good at it that it was like hard to ignore,
Yeah.
I guess. And that's kind of how I got my first job too. So there's kind of both sides of the coin. Like, if you want to be smart, look up what they're hiring for. But if you really fall in love with something, you can make that work too, unless it's like really your own language you made up in your basement. Then
Yeah,
so
right. Yeah, totally. Um,
got to give that caveat.
but yeah, that is a really good idea. I mean, yeah, learning what people are getting hired for in your area. Plus, if you have a strong foundation, like if you have like, let's say, like I for one learned JavaScript exclusively. I went on to do Ruby and C Sharp and a little bit of Python, you know.
Yeah,
And I'm like, okay, I had a solid foundation in JavaScript, then I could kind of goof around, learn some other stuff. Kind of like right now, I'm learning a bit of Rust. I feel like learning TypeScript has really been almost like relearning JavaScript in many ways. I'm getting thrown a
Yeah, you
bit
know
for
what's weird?
TypeScript.
Somebody's gonna listen to this and be like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But having a good foundation in TypeScript, you can learn many other languages. I know, like they say, like C++ is that jump off point to like learn any other language, and I believe that's true. I haven't spent much time in that area, but like so JavaScript, where you can do functional programming or object oriented, and then layering in types with TypeScript, you'd actually be surprised. Like going from other languages, you're like, oh, like I can kind of glean some similarities here. Um, One of the ones I found interesting that was completely functional was Scala,
Oh yeah,
and I picked up Scala, and I was like, this is kind of like TypeScript esque, like functional TypeScript with like
yeah.
map chaining and filtering and
Hmm.
stuff, and I don't know, it was interesting. So I don't know, it's a good jumping off point.
That's funny. I use Scala. I didn't use it. I had to read a lot of it and like make minor changes, but I could read it and like feel comfortable with it way more so than let's say Rust or PHP, which to me
Yeah,
this looked confusing at best. And with Scala, I'm like, okay, I kind of get what's going on here. I could make changes to the code.
yeah.
That's a really good point you make there. How do you feel about TypeScript? I assume I know the answer, but like, how did you come into TypeScript and like, do you like it or have you just gotten really good at
I
it?
do not like TypeScript. I have a love-hate relationship with TypeScript. I've been
Fair enough.
so some people on my team have called me a TypeScript wizard. I don't know why, but I've gotten really good at it, and that's kind of what we talked about. Like when I started this job, we had to build a mobile app for Bayer, and I think our tech stack was Ionic. So
Yeah.
Ionic ships with TypeScript, and we were doing Ionic kind of had like this weird fork in the road where it became language agnostic. I think it used to be only Angular, but we were building Ionic with React, and that ships with TypeScript, and that was kind of like my first foray into TypeScript.
Okay.
And I just thought the development experience was like, it was tough because you'd make a change and you're like, I just want to see if it like, shows up correctly on the front end, but you have all these errors you got to fix before you can even see it. And then I kind of built this mobile app personally, the one I've been talking about for the state of Missouri that's been doing really well,
That's cool.
called MoGas X
Yeah.
Back. And I built that in the same stack because, like we talked about before, like I was learning Ionic and AWS Amplify, and I kind of got to work, and I was like kind of breaking out into a sweat. I'm like, man, like, what if they know I'm an imposter? Like, I gotta figure this out. So I built an app with it in the same stack I was using at work,
Wow.
and that app's continued for the last 2 or 3 years now, and I've just been so exposed to TypeScript, and I've seen it in so many different areas and like different lights,
Hmm.
and now they're asking me for help on TypeScript at work, and like I work in consulting, so I keep getting thrown on TypeScript projects. So
Very cool.
it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. I've seen how great it is, and I see how sometimes it annoys me, which is always funny because
Right.
when I post hate on TypeScript online, somebody's like, "You just need to use it. Like you just need to build with
I
it, and
hate when people say that. Yeah.
you will see
The
the
light.
beauty of
Yeah. Right.
TypeScript." And it's like they don't know I've been building with it for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, no, send me some resources.
Yeah.
And they'll
Oh, it
send me
sounds
like
great.
TypeScript documentation. I'm like, I'll check this out. Maybe you're right. Like it's just funny to me. It's like I think at this point, it's safe to say like I can have a nuanced opinion on TypeScript without like totally throwing it out. But
I, I really
yeah, it's
appreciate that. I think you can also tell somebody's seniority and maybe like I'll be honest, it's kind of a proxy of maybe how good they are to work with, depending on how strong their opinions are on certain technologies. Because I'm on Twitter sometimes, and the thing is like, if you say anything you don't like TypeScript, people are like, you're an idiot. You just don't know how to
yeah,
use it right. It's a skills issue you
yeah,
have, or something like that. If you're only using JavaScript, then you're not a serious developer at all. And then you have the whole camp of people who says, oh, if all you know is JavaScript, then you're just not. I would only use this. I only use microservices. I only do TDD. I only use
Yeah.
TypeScript. I'm thinking like, have you people ever like shipped stuff to like the web or worked on a team of developers? I just don't think. I'm like, either you have not, or you have and you're just awful to work with. I mean,
Yeah, I wonder that too, man, because you meet some of these people and they're just like so dogmatic on their opinions of stuff. Like they're just like, th- and it's like, have you ever really written? Like, have you ever been under a deadline
yeah,
and had
right.
to ship code that wasn't perfect because you needed to get something done? Like,
I don't think
I
they
don't
have.
know.
I think
Yeah, I
these
don't
people are
think they have
professional
either.
trolls.
Yeah, seriously, I bet they don't even own a computer. Probably like walking to their local library, logging on to LinkedIn and Twitter, like, hey, TypeScript? What a loser.
uh, Real quick, I was on TikTok. I made a video. It's a really boring one. Got way too many likes. It said you should learn HTML and CSS before JS, and I was like, the most boring take you could possibly have.
Seriously.
People took the bait, and this guy like made a stitch with me and says like, this is dangerous information to give. I was like, wait,
Oh my
what? He's like, you should learn. And then I looked and I found him, and I was like, I'm really curious. This guy like a genius. Turns out he's never worked as a developer, doesn't write code, just has a very strong opinion about how to write code from not ever written code. And I'm like, okay, interesting.
I say find somebody you like, find somebody you resonate with, and just follow what they say. There's so many opinions on the internet. You'll be spinning your head trying to make everybody happy.
You really can't. Yeah, I mean, I've had to learn that, and I've also had to learn, who to follow, who not to follow, and I've changed a lot of my opinions over the years, over the months, over comments. I mean, sometimes people write stuff, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. I should I should have thought of that. It can be really helpful to speak your opinions out loud online and actually look at the people that actually have good intentions and have good points. Is really good. But yeah, one of my criteria for following people or listening to what they say is, does this person seem somewhat happy? Have they done anything that supports their claims? Basically, they have a work history that I can kind of look at and say, okay,
Yeah,
they probably know what they're talking about. If they fit
yeah.
some of that criteria, I generally would listen to what they got to say.
I might steal that from you. That's a good way of looking at
Number
things.
one is, are they happy? If you're a jerk, I I don't know if I still want to listen to you or follow you, no matter how smart your hot takes are. Uh,
I agree with you.
yeah. Speaking of hot takes, before I get to hot takes, actually, I got to ask you. So you and I have kind of similar stories. Went from non-traditional background, made this massive career change. Has your life changed from learning to code? If so, how?
Man, my life has changed so much, and I know this sounds corny, but like I don't even recognize myself from like 10 years ago. Like learning the code's a good microcosm for how you do life because it's kind of difficult, and a lot of people give up or a lot of people don't make it, and it teaches you grit. It teaches you to just get stuff done. It teaches you how to learn stuff on the fly. It teaches you self-reliance. Like those are skills you can go out in the real world and use, man. Like they just make you a better person. And funny enough, I've never really actually thought of this till you asked me, but everybody that I know that really knows how to code seems like a great person. I don't know what it is, but like, they're just they do when they say they're going to do something, they do it. They're smart. You kind of learn to work with people. I know there's like a joke that coders are really antisocial and
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
but like it hasn't been my experience at all, just in the places I've worked. But it's just like mastering anything else, man. You learn so much that it fundamentally changes you, and I think it's been an awesome experience. Like I'm having so much fun and getting to meet so many cool people, and the fact that you can just like turn around and like build something you want to, that's incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's really cool. Also, I'm like, man, maybe you haven't met the same developers I have. But in general, I would agree with you. I mean, most of the people I've met in the developer community, it's been super welcoming. I came in as an outsider. I've had pretty much nothing but positive interaction with people. I mean, from meeting people like you, to like we're in a tech creators group, which is super friendly
Yeah.
and welcoming. People with like amazing experiences. They're all like willing to help people out, and I think it's an amazing community. Maybe more so than any other that I'm aware of. I've never really felt like part of a community until I learned to code. It's been really cool. And you're right; it's a great foundational skill to acquire. Very cool. I'm sure it doesn't hurt your finances either. You know, I mean that's the thing. It can lead to a completely different lifestyle than maybe you're used to.
Yeah, I mean, reality is you can, if you work at it a little bit, you can get paid more than most people. So
Yeah, it is crazy sometimes the salary stuff. But outside of that, I mean, it's fun to do. I enjoy it. Sounds like you do too. Obviously,
oh yeah,
it's nice to get up and do stuff that you can not just tolerate but actually enjoy. Um,
yeah.
Before I let you go, I got to do quick hot takes. Twitter
Let's
versus
do it.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, not on Twitter.
No one has said Twitter. Maybe it's because I mostly have interviewed people that I've met from LinkedIn, but yeah, I agree. Twitter is, I've just never been able to get into it. The hot takes, the meanness, the anonymity. It's been rough.
It's X now too,
It's
isn't it?
X.com,
Yeah.
but no one really
Okay.
calls it that.
Yeah. You're right.
How about React versus Vue?
Ah, come on, man. React.
Who are the 5 developers out there using Vue? Where are they all at? I think there's
I
like
don't know.
the other 2% of developers using Vue, Solid,
You know what?
and
They
Angular.
love it.
People
You'll
love it.
never, yeah, you'll never meet a Vue person that doesn't love it.
They
So
all love it.
I got to get.
I just bash it. I don't even know why. I used it one time and I thought it was pretty good. I just like to stir the pot a little bit with the Vue developers out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
How about Next versus Create React App?
I guess next because they told us to stop using create. The
Yeah, they told us to.
great good gosh, the people who lead React, the great developers in the sky. They told us to stop using create React. I guess next it is.
Yeah, it was wild how that just kind of happened out of nowhere. I was so used to using Create React App. I like Next, but I won't lie. Create React App was nice and easy. It was nice. I mean,
I
you could
still
build stuff
use
so
it.
quickly. Yeah, you could still use it.
Even over it just feels like you write create React app. Like what's better than that, man? The Vite, I don't know what it is. It's a French word.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. I was like Vite,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Just,
I tried it, and I was like, it's all right. You know, it's not something. It's like npm versus pnpm versus Yarn, and all these
yeah.
different managing tools. And I was like on Twitter, and I was like, why should I not use npm? Flood of comments about why it's like terrible to use, and I'm still just using it to this day.
Yeah.
Last one, TypeScript versus Vanilla JS.
Man, I wish this wasn't so tough. I gotta go Vanilla JS, man. It's like your
Didn't
first
expect that
love.
one. Nice.
It's like your first love, man.
No more type gymnastics. It is. I mean, I'll be honest. When I just want to get something just done quickly, and especially if it's on the front end, I'm going not TypeScript. If it's the back end, I'm almost certainly going to use TypeScript because that's personally where I feel it makes the most sense. I've definitely
Yeah.
heard arguments for using it on the front end. I tend to avoid it if I can, to be honest.
I can't think of a React component I've written in the last 2 years that didn't use TypeScript now that you
Wow.
mention it. Yeah.
Okay, you got to write a LinkedIn post about this.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But man, if you all right, for the vanilla JS haters out there, go spend some time in Rust and then write something in JavaScript and just like try and make something work just to like see if it does anything. Like Rust, you got to have all your ducks in a row.
Yeah,
Like everything's got to be right, or that compiler is yelling at
so
you.
mad.
Versus like JS, you can write just the worst code, but it'll run, and you're like, all right,
Yeah,
now I can refactor it.
it's kind of why I think, strong opinion, that everybody's first programming language should just be JavaScript. Just get you immediately ready to start working. You don't have to. Imagine starting with something like Rust. You'd be screwed. You know.
Yeah. I mean, somebody online was like, should I learn Rust as my first language? And I'm like,
Probably not.
first of all, you don't get that feedback of seeing something show up on a browser.
Yeah.
That feels really
Oh,
good.
for sure.
And two, what made you type this, man? What made you come up with this? I don't know. You should have just started with JavaScript.
Just start with that. Well, hey man, it's
Yeah.
been really cool speaking with you. The link to your book is in the show notes. But if people want to grab it, where can they find it, and where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Ryan Talbert. I'll give you that link too. And then, the book is on gumroad.com, 101 tips, TypeScript, React, JavaScript. I'll post a link for that too. And if you live in Missouri, the state of Missouri owes you your gas taxes back. Every gallon of gas or diesel, you can get 7.5 cents back. And next
Holy
year it's
moly.
10 cents. use my app, Mo Gas Tax Back. Check it out. I'll leave a link for that too, but only Missouri residents.
Oh man, I forgot to even talk about it. This is such an awesome idea. Well, hey man, thank you so much for showing up and chatting with me today. Really appreciate it. That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out parsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.